In this video, I'm going to show you how to compute free cash flow for this XYZ company. Before I show you how to do in Excel, I want you to review how this free cash flow is computed. There are different ways people follow, but I have found this one of the easiest ways to compute the free cash flow. So I always start with profit after taxes and I add depreciation and amortization, subtract change in operating current assets plus change in operating current liabilities minus capital expenditure plus after tax interest payment on debt minus after tax interest on cash and short-term investment. And this is the definition I'm going to follow to compute the free cash flow. To make it more understandable, I am going to compute this in two steps. First, I want to compute all the information needed to compute free cash flow first, and once I have all this information, and then make some adjustment and compute the free cash flow. Let's start. So the first information we need to compute the free cash flow is net income, and that net income comes from your income statement, right? From your income statement you can get net income. So once you have your net income, next is implied tax rate. Remember, we need to compute after tax interest payment on debt and after tax interest on cash and short-term investment. That's why we need implied tax rate. How we compute implied tax rate? Implied tax rate is basically tax payment over earning before taxes. Again, we can compute this from our income statement, right? So in your income statement, you have tax payment and your earning before taxes, and that gives us the implied tax rate. So I can compute this for all year. Next, I need depreciation and amortization. I can get this from my cash flow statement or income statement, and I want to get it from income statement. So from income statement you can get depreciation and amortization, right? So you have now depreciation and amortization. Next, I can calculate operational current assets, which is equals to current assets minus cash and short-term investment. Okay, so that equals to my current assets come from my balance sheet, right? Current assets minus liquid assets. So that gives my operational current assets. Similarly, I can compute operational current liabilities, which is total current liabilities, right, minus the current debt. That gives me operational current liabilities. After that, we need capital expenditure, and we can get this from our cash flow statement. If you look at your cash flow statement, it always has purchase of property, plant and equipment, and this is negative, and I want to make it positive with this ABS. So ABS and the purchase of property, plant and equipment, and that gives me the capital expenditure. So once you have this capital expenditure, now let's see how much is total interest expense and how much is total interest income. Expense and income both you can get from income statement, right? So interest expense, and similarly I can get interest income. So interest income is this guy right here. So now I have all the information needed to compute free cash flow. Let's go and compute that free cash flow. So start with profit after taxes, right, which is your net income. And now you need amortization and depreciation. So that is the third item we already have, right? So we have depreciation and amortization. Now next is change in the operating current assets. If you want to compute change in the operating current assets for year 2, then you would look at operational current assets in year 2 minus operating current assets in year 1. Okay, that gives us the change in the operational current assets. Similarly, you can compute the change in operational current liabilities for year 2. You need the year 2 operational current liabilities minus year 1 operational current liabilities. Keep in mind here, this year 1, 2, 3, they are increasing. Year 1 means 2015, year 2 means 2016, year 3 means 2017, something like that. So I want to make this clear, otherwise you might get confused. Okay, then after we need capex, right? And this is already we computed here. So that is our capital expenditure. And now we need after tax interest payment and debt. And how we calculate this? This is after tax always equals to 1 minus tax rate, right? Times the interest expense. That gives us after tax interest payment on debt. And next we compute after tax interest on cash and short-term investment. That is also 1 minus tax rate, right? Times interest income. So that gives us after tax interest on cash and short-term investment. And once you have all these information, now you can compute free cash flow for year 2 to year 5. So let's see. You start with profit after taxes, right? This plus your depreciation and amortization minus your change in operational current assets, right? Plus change in operational current liabilities, right? Minus capital expenditure plus after tax interest payment on debt minus after tax interest on cash and short-term investment. So if you do this, you get your negative cash flow for year 2, and that is sometimes possible. And if you drag this formula, then you get the free cash flow for year 3, 4, and 5. So if you want to see the formula, I'm going to show you the formula here. So formula text. All right, so this is how you compute the free cash flow for year 5, 4, 3, 2. Again, I want to make this clear. Year 1 means prior year, year 2, 3, 4 is increasing. 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14 or something like that. All right, I hope this makes sense.